Hey there, it's me, Jeff, the SP Spaz, back for another fantastic video. Um, and this is a question I got about fasting, and I thought, well, here I'll start over. Uh, Basically, the question is because I said something about it's easier for me to fast on weekends, and um, the question was essentially why is that? Because for a lot of people, they find exactly the opposite. Because for people that do work like Monday through Friday jobs and are off work on the weekends, for a lot of those people, they find themselves on the weekend in a lot more places, including their own home, where food is there all the time. They're surrounded by food, or they're doing activities where food's involved. Um, I mean, it's true sometimes weeknights too, but especially seems to be the case for a lot of people on the weekends. Um, and this is kind of one of those things that's more circumstance than anything else, because I personally um, don't have a lot of activities that I'm doing on the weekends these days. Um, it's just, there have been times in my life where I had plenty of things I was doing on the weekend, but the when I've been in the process of this current fitness journey, whatever you want to call it, losing over 80 pounds and doing this stuff that I'm doing, I haven't been doing a whole lot of like actually active things in the week, with the exception of Sundays. I've been doing a tennis class, but that's only like for 6 weeks at a time, in each season. So for those periods, and it's 90 minutes at a time. So I have had that, um, but for the most part, I haven't really done a whole lot of active stuff on the weekends, which allows me to um, sleep in to a point. And I don't like sleep till noon or anything like that, because if I did, I would have trouble waking up on Monday for work. Um, well, sometimes I have trouble doing that anyway, but I would have even more trouble doing it. Um, so I don't sleep all day or anything, but I do get off to a later start and also a slower start, in that um, I don't like get up and immediately go work out, and I don't, like I said, usually do anything really physically active. So it's easier for me to not eat for a longer period of time, because I'm not doing anything that really stimulates my hunger. And even when I do consume something, usually I have coffee in the morning, and sometimes even not until afternoon. Sometimes I drink nothing but water in the morning, just enough to like not be thirsty. Um, I don't. Basically, I listen to my body. That's the number one thing. I posted this again in the alternate day fasting group earlier, and it's the number one. Anytime anyone asks for advice on anything to do with health in general, or specifically diet and stuff like that, the number one rule is listen to your body. And I know that's kind of easy to say and not always as easy to do, and sometimes it can take some time to learn how to do that. Um, and I understand that. It took me plenty of time to learn that myself. So I know it's not necessarily the easiest thing to do, but it is like the most important thing. And this includes, one of the most important is listening to your body when it comes to hunger and thirst. Um, when you're thirsty, drink, and drink water is the best thing to drink when you're thirsty. I know that there are other options that can quench your thirst and are necessarily terrible for you, but water is usually the best thing, if as long as you have access to water that's clean and not having a bunch of contaminants that's going to hurt you. Um, and some people go a little more overboard on that than others in terms of trying to remove contaminants, and they end up removing things that are actually pretty good for your body. But anyway, listening to the thirst and listening to the hunger, and basically don't eat unless you're hungry, is a important thing to remember. And obviously, there are some people that do certain diets with specific purposes, specific goals, where they actually don't do that on purpose. They eat at specific times, intervals, or whatever, to do a specific accomplish a specific purpose with their diet, and so they actually eat before they get hungry as just part of a routine. And obviously, there's plenty of people who have success doing that. So I'm not saying that those people are wrong to do that, but the overwhelming majority of people are not disciplined enough, or at least just not. That's not what they want to do. Um, where they want to eat in a regimented way for a specific purpose. Most people just want to eat when they feel like eating. Um, and you can do that. And even maintain or lose weight doing that. But the number one thing is, like I said, eat when you're actually hungry. Don't eat when you're not hungry. And if you go by that, um, then you can be much more effective at hitting those goals you actually do have. If you're just sort of a casual, person, not necessarily a hardcore dieter, or somebody that is a bodybuilder, or somebody has, athlete, or somebody that has specific diet regimen that they're following for achieving a specific body purpose. If you're just trying to overall get better health, lose weight, lose fat, get in better shape, then it really is a good thing to do, to just eat when you're hungry and stop eating when you're full. And I don't mean like, you're so full that you're like doubling over in pain. I mean, like when you actually start to feel full. Basically, a good rule of thumb that I've incorporated in my life is, if I have a plate, there's more food on it, and if I start mentally debating, do I want another bite of this, or do I want, to finish this? Then the answer is no. I stop. So if there's any question, like, there are times where I just devour everything on the plate, and then I know that I needed that. Times that I'm like sitting there, getting every single scrap of food off of it. Obviously then I was hungry enough, I needed to do that. But if there's ever a time where I'm looking at it and I'm like, well, I could eat some more, but should I? Like, if I even start to question it, then the answer is no. And if I stop there, then that's more beneficial to me than, having those last few bites. And that was true even before I started, like, actually successfully dieting in a more extreme way, and, losing a lot of weight. Um, I would often feel the wrath of those decisions where I would just go ahead and finish, even though I knew I didn't need to eat more of it. There'd be, I remember quite a few times at restaurants, specifically Tex-Mex restaurants, because those are places where it's easy to just have, like, you've got whatever your entree is, and you've got rice and beans with it, and you are like sitting there, like, I've got half an enchilada left, and I've got some rice and beans left. It's really tasty, but I'm full, but I just want more of that taste. So I'll eat more of it, because it's not about fullness. It's not about satisfaction of hunger. It's just about getting more of that taste. So that's one of the things that obviously anybody who has trouble losing weight or staying in shape, that's one of the things that people tend to fight. Anybody who has trouble with overeating and stuff, it's that difference between eating to satisfy your hunger and eating to satisfy your taste buds. And the funny thing about that is, you can stimulate your taste buds and not even consume the food. You can like spit something out. And there's actually people that do that. Some people have it, do that to like an extreme degree, where it's actually an eating disorder, where they want to taste the food, but, spit it out because they're like paranoid about consuming it. I'm not advising anyone do that. I'm just saying that and this is, if it's a restaurant, take it with you. Most of the time you can take it with you, and there's certain circumstances obviously where it's not going to work to do that. But if you have any way to refrigerate whatever it is, and then if you're actually hungry later and you want that same thing, then you can have it. A lot of times, restaurant food doesn't keep well later. You're like, I don't really want this anyway, and so you don't end up consuming it. And honestly, like, if there's any question about that either, where you're sitting there like, well, I don't know whether I would want this later. I'm not exactly like excited to have it later or reheat it later. Then just go ahead and leave it. Don't worry about it. And most people that are watching this are not people that are needing to hoard food, where they're not going to have access to food. Obviously, there are maybe somebody that is, but most people, that's not the case. So you're going to get to eat again. So don't worry. That's a lot of this is mental, and that's kind of what I'm trying to say. I know I've veered a little bit off my original topic, um, but I think I answered the basic question in terms of why it's easy for me to fast on weekends is I just get off to a slower start, and I basically what I do is drink water until I'm at all hungry. Then I have my coffee. I do put some calories in the coffee. I don't drink it completely black. Some people freak out about that, like, "Oh, you've broken your fast." Well, I don't really care whether I've broken my fast, according to those people, because it's still going to be a very small amount of calories unless you add like a whole bunch of stuff to, if you add like, a cup of cream or like a bunch of sugar or you know huge piles of butter or whatever to your coffee, then yeah, that's going to the calories start to add up when you do that. But if you basically keep it to, when it comes to creamers, like basically I put in enough to cool it down and give it a little bit of a creaminess. I don't need like a ton of it. There are some that I put more than others. And most of the time I don't add any kind of actual sugar. I will add stevia and, things that have that in there. And I'll add things like cacao powder and cinnamon and things. So things that sort of have a certain natural sweetness to them, but are not like actual refined sugar. Um, and if I do add something with refined sugar, then I don't add very much of it. So I don't want to have this like big blood sugar spike in the morning or even early afternoon. So basically, I have the coffee, and today it happens to be a Sunday when I'm recording this, and that's what I did. And all I've had so far is coffee with some unsweetened creamer and the stevia and the cacao powder. And it's 12:51, and basically 12:51 p.m. And if the next time I get hungry, whenever that is, because I'm not hungry right now, um, I will do one of two things. Either I'll have some more coffee um, and see if that satisfies me. Or if I don't feel like having coffee, then I will eat something, but I'll eat something low calorie and eat only enough to make the hunger go away, basically, to satisfy myself in that moment, not like binge on a bunch of stuff. And that's kind of another thing I wanted to get to before I wrap this video up. Was I talked about this a little bit in my video about disadvantages that I have in dieting, that one of the things that I've done is sort of associate certain things with food. I don't do what some people call emotional eating, and I don't have the thing where if I'm at a social event, I have to eat whatever is being offered. I don't have those kind of etiquette qualms or whatever that some people do. But I have always had sort of an associative thing with food when it comes to certain activities. Going to a movie, I want to eat snacks while I watch a movie, and watching uh, TV or sports events, especially, is one that I've always sort of associated with that. So that's a kind of thing that I've sort of had to sort of disassociate the food from that activity, that get out of the mindset that if I'm watching a game, like before I stopped to do this video, I was watching a basketball game, and I don't have to consume food while I'm watching a basketball game. But if I do decide to consume food with a basketball game, then um, one of two things. Either I make it something low calorie to begin with, um, which a lot of people associate low calorie with tasteless. There are plenty of tasty low calorie foods. You just have to actually um, be mindful about it and scope out what those things are, that the things that are that taste good but still are low calorie. Doesn't mean you have to eat stuff that tastes like cardboard, because the more that you do that kind of thing, the more you're kind of turned off by the concept, and the harder it is to keep up a diet. You'll end up going back to high calorie junk food and things like that, because you have this mental association that, oh, this is diet food and it tastes bad. And I did that for many years. I tried all of those things, like Slim Fast and Nutrisystem and things like that, where it's bad food to try to keep the calories down. And you don't have to do that. There are lower calorie foods that taste good. But the other thing, in addition to just lower calorie foods, is the portion size. And the thing about that is people talk about portion size, reducing portion size. But one thing you can do is just have a portion size period, because it's easy to do. One thing that plenty of people do, including me, is like watching a game. You whip out an entire big bag of something, a bag of chips or a big jar of nuts or, whatever it is. And the problem is you sit there and just mindlessly eat while watching because you're not paying attention to what you're eating. So that's kind of a two-pronged thing there. One is give yourself a portion to begin with. Instead of taking the whole bag or the whole jar of something, get like a little bowl or something like that and just pour out like a little bit, finish that. And then if you actually want more, then you got to go get some more. And the more that obviously I know that it doesn't take that much work most of the time to go to the kitchen and get more. So it's very possible to still overeat doing that. But you're a little less likely because you're more aware of the fact that you're actually doing it, as opposed to just mindlessly stuffing it in your mouth before you really give your body a time to recognize that you're full and need to stop. And the other aspect of that is that if even if you're going to eat something that's not super low in calories, if you start with that smaller portion, then you end up eating less of it than if you have the whole thing. And if even if it's a low calorie thing, you can still, yes, eventually overeat on it if you just down way too much of it. Some people make that mistake too, where they're like, oh, I'm going to eat fruit. Fruit's good for you, and then like they'll eat like a whole bag of grapes or something. And that, yes, the total is still not a whole lot of calories, but it's also like there's a whole lot of fructose in that, and it kind of overloads your liver, with that, and it takes longer to process and gives you more problems down the line. So part of it is just being mindful and paying attention to what you're doing, as opposed to just kind of doing it without thinking. So better to disassociate the food from the event entirely, to the point where you mentally know, I don't have to do this. I don't have to have this while I'm doing this thing. But if you are going to consume something, be aware of what it is, start with a smaller portion, and then allow yourself to have more if you really want to. And that's what I do on a day like this, where I don't know, exactly what I'm going to eat. And that's fine. I'm not currently doing something where I have to be as regimented. I was for a few weeks recently, and I just have snapped out of that as I'm recording this, where I'm kind of shifting into a different thing. But anyway, I think that answers the basic question about why weekend fasting is easier for me, and kind of some of the tips that I do as far as low calorie stuff. Yeah, I will probably eventually eat like a dinner meal tonight, but I don't know that for sure. Yeah, if I'm thinking I'm probably going to bake some chicken, but even that I don't have to eat it all. I can have a small portion of it, save the rest for later. Tomorrow, it's like I'm not working out today, but I am tomorrow. So I generally try to, eat more on my workout days. And so I'm thinking what I'll probably do is bake the chicken, eat a small amount of it tonight, and then eat most of it tomorrow after my workout. And I think that will work the best. But anyway, thanks for the question. Thanks for watching. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so. Share this video, like it. Please comment, leave your feedback on your experience with weekend fasting or anything else you want me to talk about. I always welcome your questions and feedback, so let me know. And I'll see you next time.